Good morning. Right side of the news with John Knight and Nick Gardner. Peace, love, and waterbeds, that's us.
And rainbows.
I don't know about that. I'm not one of them fruity characters.
Hey, we're going to take the rainbows back.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Hey, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to Kelly Frost on KQMS last Saturday. He announced that my other show, Poke the Hornet's Nest, Sunday morning at 8 a.m., we've got an interview with Shasta Anon. If you haven't been to Shasta Anon, go to Shasta Anon and look at some of their videos.
Very high quality.
That's right.
And informative.
That's right. And it lets you know maybe how some of these local politicians and important people around town gives you their background, and maybe they're not so important after you watch this. That's my opinion. In fact, this whole show's about our opinions, so don't sue us. What was I going to talk about? John and I were just talking about how specific he is when he goes someplace. He says, you know, he'll be on the phone and say, I'll be there in 7 minutes. He's quite specific. I might say I'll be there in 5 or 10 minutes. But it got me thinking, when somebody leaves you waiting, I used to have a friend like that. Oh, I'll be there at 12. 12:30, he's still not there. You know what he's done? He has stolen my time. When you're sitting there waiting for somebody, they're stealing your time. It's important to be punctual. My mother was always late. I'm very punctual.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all human. I made a mistake a couple weeks ago, but I left you hanging. But
oh,
yeah.
Well, we got through
guilty.
it. We just get to talking. You know, my attitude is, if you don't like me, don't listen to me.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I try to tell my kids. My boys are fighting all the time. I'm just like, go do your own thing. You know,
that's the best thing you can do instead of sticking up for one or the other or making one into a little sissy.
Yeah.
Always running to daddy because things aren't going well his way. Learn how to deal with it.
I just say you're both going to be in trouble if you keep it up. I don't care who.
There you go.
Yeah. It always happens when we're in the car for some reason. I don't know why. You get in the car and we don't make it 5 minutes without some kind of argument. Maybe because they sit back there together. I have no idea.
Yes. Okay, so last week on Carl Bott's show, I've got a frog in my throat. I think it was Wednesday, the last hour of his show. He had Tanessa Audette on. And we're going to play a clip of the last 10 minutes. And this clip's important because it might help you decide whether you want to vote for the 1 cent sales tax or not. You know, a lot of people like to have it pointed out that 1 cent is actually 14, why don't you take over?
14%? He got a frog in his throat. So yeah, 1%, 1 cent increase of 7.25% is around a 14% increase, I think is where he was going. But that's quite a bit more. And you know, it doesn't seem like much, but for me, it's a slippery slope. Look how far we've come. The beginning of this country, we were never supposed to pay over 10%. And now we pay, and I'm not talking in sales tax, I'm talking in total tax. We were never supposed to be taxed over 10%. And now, depending with all the fees, I mean, if you're taxed too much, they just call it a fee, but it's been a slippery slope over the last 240 years to paying almost nothing in taxes to being taxed, I mean, up to 75% when you add everything together.
Oh, absolutely. And has our quality of life gotten better?
Yeah, I mean, you got to, everything you own, like your car, you got to pay the registration. And I understand you're supposed to fix the roads and all that kind of stuff. That could all be paid with consumer tax. Everything could be paid with consumer tax. We could own one house and not pay any taxes on it. How could you own something if it could be taken away from you if you don't pay the taxes on it? Think about that. Oh, your car gets impounded and then you got to pay thousands that you can't even go get your driver's license, which is a privilege. And
you know, it was a lot worse before we had Proposition 13 also. Your tax was just astronomical. It was almost the same as your house payment.
Yeah, that locked it in at 1%, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get around that for the last few years. They've been trying to make commercial real estate an exception, and it can be reassessed and taxed more. And as soon as they get their foot in the door, you know they're going to be going after homeowners. I've lived in my house and owned my house for 25 years, and so my tax rate's quite a bit lower than liberal that moved in next door and paid market value for his house now. But that's too bad, so sad.
Yeah, so I was talking to these people. I was in Hawaii. I used to live out there on the Big Island, and I was at the hot pond or warm pond. Anyways, I'll just get to the moral of the story here is I was talking. They were real nice people from New York. They had a ranch they inherited from, I believe it was the wife's parents. And we were just talking about the world and stuff. And so they inherited this ranch, and then they came in and reassessed it at $5 million or something like that. And this was passed down, I believe for a couple generations. I believe it was the grandparents passed it to the parents and the parents passed it to them. Well, they came in and reassessed it. And I believe the property tax was around $250,000 a year. I don't remember. I'm getting the numbers a little messed, but their tax in their area was much higher.
Sure.
Like much, much higher.
They're forced to sell.
Yeah, they were forced to sell. And this was something passed down for generations in their family. And they said, and then guess what? You sell it and then you're taxed on all that money. Like, it's crazy. You can't even keep a piece of property passed down for generations because it's too expensive to keep.
So we're going to go to this clip with Tanessa and listen to it real closely. And this is going to tell you what they've done with our tax money in the last 4 years, as far as them getting raises on getting personal raises from the city of Reading. And when you hear this, do you really want to give them another 1 cent tax? So here we go right now.
Everybody a raise.
A raise, especially
Market
those big
rate.
ones. Yeah, the big ones, big raises.
Okay, let me tell you a little bit about these big raises.
Okay.
Because one of the very interesting things that I have found that is just sort of leaves you awestruck is that in January of 22, it wasn't just that they gave people raises, okay? What they also did, which you don't see in the paperwork that is, presented to the council or to the public, is that while the maximums are raised by like an average in the first year, it's 3-part raise, but the very first bump is 18%. Like for executives, 20%. For the bargaining units, it might have started at 20%. It might have started at 5%, or maybe they do 3 escalators in 1 year. So you get to 15% in the first year, but it looks like it's 3, that kind of thing.
Right.
But for the executives, so they think about it this way: that first bump, let's say it's a 20% raise for an executive in their maximum. The minimum was raised by 40%. It doubled what the maximum was. So you now have the maximum or the minimum exceeding the maximum by double what that increase was. So let's just say you were a new director and you are getting paid $100,000 a year. Well, between 2021 and 2024, you'll get like a $70,000 raise for just being new. If you were a tenured person at the top of your pay scale, you might have gotten a $35,000 raise. So it's permanent raises. Legitimately, the maximum, previous maximum is now the minimum pay.
But the city council had to approve this.
Of course they did, if they knew and understood exactly what that looked like. So when you look at all I have wasn't there, so all I have is what is publicly available. Mm-hmm. And what's publicly available is a sheet that shows you the maximum increase for a bunch of these positions. And so they're increasing the max. You don't see the minimum increase. And I'd bet my bottom dollar that none of the council that were there has any idea that that's what happened to the bottom. I don't think that they even know that. I don't think they're aware of that. They may have been told, for compression purposes, we need to move up the minimum, but I don't think they conceptually understood. I created a chart because I was reading through these things and I'm like, I'm looking at the maximums, and then I put the whole thing into a chart, and I was like awestruck at what I saw when I started to calculate year over year what the increases were. And I thought maybe I had done it wrong. And so I had to go back and check. And, you get a staff report and it has, let's say it has 3 or 4 raises within it. Well, those are all on like 3 different pieces of paper. It doesn't show, there's no comparable to it. It's just that year's increase, but you don't see what it is as an increase of the year before. The body of the staff report does not say we're giving this percent, this percent, this percent. You have to do a lot of work in order to understand exactly what it is that's happening. And if you're told it in closed session and it's, 15 minutes to talk about, I wasn't there. I'm just saying in theory, if it's 15 minutes to talk about it and it's just a narration that you're told, you're not physically seeing what this looks like with that type of calculation, there's no way that you would know. There's just, unless you sat down and did a spreadsheet, which I feel like now every new council member, I need to give them a calculator
it makes it sound like the bureaucracy of the city, while not lying, were omitting things. Would you say that?
Well, I called my BFF, Michael DeQuisto, and asked him, I was like, let me ask you some questions. Like, let me just ask you what you knew. Because I truly, truly believe, being on the council now, I truly believe that if the council saw these, it's numbers, you can make them look like whatever. But if the council had seen the really what it is that they were voting on, and they understood, and they saw it in 3 different ways, and they understood it, I do not think that they would make that decision.
That's another discussion, total discussion. When you have a city council, it's part-time, even though it's not part-time. And they don't get paid squat.
We get $600 a month.
Yeah.
It's quite lucrative.
Yeah, well, it is. And, but what I'm saying is that with the amount of paperwork that rolls through there, and, if you've got a business, that's what you're kind of focusing on. It's not really a surprise. However, it's, I've made scientists from the Space Center come back to me 3 times with a briefing until I and my other 2 people with me could understand it because of things like this. I said, get your crayons out, boys, because we need to understand this before we spend several $1 million. But and I don't even have time now to ask. I'm going to bring back the tobacco tax, or tobacco fee. I am so adamantly against it because it didn't go after the ones who are causing the problem, the vape. And you are the only one that voted against this.
Well, it's illogical. That exact idea and concept and ordinance,
So there you go. Carl mentioned that they kind of held back some of the data on that to get the decision they wanted from the city council. And I wonder who they is. I suspect they is Barry Tippin and the bureaucracy, the head cheeses around the city of Reading. And when somebody deliberately deceives you, they're lying to you, and it's my opinion they should be fired. Personally, I think Barry should have been fired a long time ago. The city of Reading used to have mayors. We used to elect a mayor, and that changed. I don't know who the last mayor was, but that changed when they brought Mike Warren to Reading. And we've had 3 city managers, Mike Warren, Kurt Starman, and Barry Tippin. And as far as I'm concerned, everything's gone to hell since Mike Warren showed up. But, if you don't understand that, listen to it again. I brought this up on my other show, how much the chief of police, Barry Tippin, and other people had gotten $70,000, $80,000 worth of raises in the last 3 years, and this explains it a lot better. And, that's not what we signed up for. We signed up for people that would represent us and run our community in a safe manner, which I don't believe they've done, and keep our infrastructure up. And I believe that they're letting the infrastructure go to hell so they can get the 1 cent sales tax. Do you have any thoughts on that, John?
There's definitely people benefit a lot off of crisis, and you can look at it on a large scale or a micro scale. And, that's something I'd have to look deeper into. But absolutely, it makes sense, create the problem or let the problem happen. And then you come up with a solution that just happens to benefit you. That seems to be what people do in this world quite a bit.
I'd wager that, I hear that the city of Reading gets money for letting parolees come to Reading. I've heard that they get money for letting out-of-town homeless come to Redding, specifically San Francisco. I've heard a lot of those rumors. I don't know if I could ever confirm them, but I do see new parolees in town all the time and new out-of-town homeless. It gets frustrating because, in my opinion, our community could be a lot safer than it is right now. So listen, I've got a clip on somebody that is going to run for supervisors. We'll get to that next. Let Leslie have a chance to bring it up. It's very interesting. This person was a supervisor before, and I've asked numerous people if he had any accomplishments as a supervisor, and no, nobody can think of any accomplishments. His one big push was to get a fire hydrant out at Igo or Ono, one or the other, and that didn't come to fruition. That's after the Zog fire out there burnt the place down. And, he's been instrumental in cleaning up Keswick after the Zog fire, but I can't see where it's cleaned up. In fact, it's gotten a lot worse because now you can see what was going on out there. There's no trees or brush to hide what they're doing. Are you ready, Leslie? She's ready. Here, we're going to announce Tim Garman.
Tiptoe through the window, by the window, that is where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me. Oh, tiptoe from the garden, by the garden, along the willow tree, and tiptoe through the tulips with me.
Tiny Tim Garman, that's me, and I'm running for your district. What district is it? He's going to run against Chris Kellstrom.
That's
to be
District 5.
That's right. Tiny Tim's your man on the scene. We're going to go to some two clips from Redacted, and then we'll take a break, and John Knight will take over. He's got some interesting stuff he wants to talk about. So if you're ready for that first clip, play it up whenever you want to. I go to Redacted quite often. Imagine if you went to redacted.com. It's a podcast, and it's two really smart people that talk about local things nationally, kind of like Stephen Gardner. He's a really good one, too, to keep you up to date what's going on and give you an honest evaluation from somebody that loves their country about what's going on. And so are we ready for that? We're ready for that.
Hey,
Hold
before
on.
you go to that clip real quick, I was just trying to look up and see how the money comes in for the homeless and the parolees and stuff like
Go
that.
ahead.
'Cause I wanted to get, I'm finding some information from 2016, and it looks like a lot of what it is you kind of were talking about a crisis. You declare a crisis of homelessness and these and parolees. It looks like, well, just in the homeless part of it, in 2016 there was $34.2 million that was through state and federal grants and stuff like that. So it looks like a lot of that money doesn't necessarily get taken from the general fund, but if there's a crisis with homeless or that's
That's money that the city of Redding got?
the Shasta County and the city of Redding.
Okay, I remember when Julie Winter was in there, and they kept doing that point in time count, and there was anywhere from 300 to 500 homeless. And 3 months later, they wrote Gavin Newsom wanting to declare a crisis because there were 3,000 homeless in Redding, and it seems like they just kind of fluctuate back and forth to whatever suits their agenda.
Yeah, well, we'll do a deep dive on that here maybe in a couple weeks or something.
That sounds great.
We could do a whole show on that.
That sounds great. I'd like to do that. Okay, here comes Redacted, and this has to do with the FBI, and we'll just listen to them.
Well, a lot of new revelations this morning, so a lot of new news coming out of the FBI, but is it new or are they just dragging us along by the nose? Let us know in the comments below. Well, the FBI is suddenly finding a lot of new things, a lot of missing things, like things they lost in their couch cushions, I guess. This morning, FBI Director Kash Patel once again told Fox News that they've found once hidden burn bags filled with incredible information. Burn bags.
No, let me just, is that a real thing? And also, why would the FBI have it? What is it that they need to burn ever?
I don't know.
Is it standard practice that the FBI should ever burn evidence? Under what circumstances
No,
would we
I mean, I don't know if it's
use
standard
this?
practice. I wish I was an FBI agent. I could answer that question.
I mean,
but
isn't that
I'm
the
not,
equivalent
so
of-
I
Right,
don't
so
exactly
let's
know.
stretch our imagination.
Leslie.
Under what circumstances would we be?
Okay. Yeah, all they need to do is invest in a barbecue. And they would, I mean, I'm just saying, they wouldn't have to have all these burn bags. It would look a lot less suspicious if they just had a barbecue.
But her point is
I know, I'm just being.
they could cook dinner lunch at the
I
same
mean,
time, huh?
they would have never got caught if they just had a barbecue and they just burned it on the barbecue.
Hey,
Then nobody would ever say anything.
I'd like to take a moment and say hi to our most trusted listener. Good morning, Christian Gardner. How are you? Maybe you'd like to call in and give us your opinion. What's the phone number here?
Well, we're not live right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Next time.
Okay,
Next time.
we'll be looking forward to it.
All
let's,
right.
let's finish that clip. But
Go ahead.
why would they burn anything? I mean, their job is to gather evidence. Do
Yeah.
they burn the evidence they don't want us to see? I think that's the point she's trying to get across to us.
Absolutely.
For the government. Go ahead, Philip.
Well, I was just saying, isn't that kind of like a mini Watergate? Like, they got in trouble for destroying documents. Like, their documents should never be, if you're going to be transparent, they should never be destroyed.
Right. Again, we're not experts here. We read these investigations all the time. I just want to know if we can stretch our imagination and say under what circumstances would it be appropriate for the government to ever burn things, evidence.
Well, they found them, so apparently they weren't burned, but they were kept in these bags. I don't know. Of course, he told Fox News that, of course. So we're also learning the FBI suddenly found the missing minute of prison video footage outside of Jeffrey Epstein's cell. Where'd that minute go? Where was it hiding? Was it in one of those burn bags?
Under what circumstances should we be editing videos? Under what circumstances?
Hang on though. They found the missing minute, right? What was this? Was this on like what freaking 8mm like video reel? What was it like on the cutting room floor? It was digitally removed.
It was a VHS tape that said missing minute. And they're like, oh my God, it was on our shelf the whole time. The missing minute of video footage was on this VHS tape. You know what? Someone put it in the wrong case. They put it in the Ace Ventura Pet Detective case instead of the original VHS cover. So where'd that minute go? Was it also in a burn bag somewhere? How did they suddenly find it? Well, more on that in a second. Meanwhile, Ghislaine.
So there you go. They found a secret room, and there's burn bags in it that, in my opinion, a government organization shouldn't have burn bags because then they're picking and choosing the information they want us to hear. That's not their job. But, you know, it comes into the question, why do they have that? I have no doubt they were doing it. Why'd they put it in a secret room? I've got an idea that an underling, somebody down a little bit on the food chain in the FBI, didn't like what was going on and put those away so they would be found at a later date. That would be my guess.
Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense because and maybe the person that was put in charge of getting rid of that minute might have put that aside too. You know, I mean, that makes sense because it doesn't happen on its own. I mean, that doesn't happen on its own. I think Jeffrey Epstein's still alive. Either that or there's a massive cover up of what actually happened.
I heard that he's got an application in to run for to be appointed city manager of Reading. Barry Tippin's retiring the 1st of December.
Have you ever seen the masks that people put on that are like silicone masks?
Oh, I have, yes.
Oh man, it is crazy how, I mean,
accurate they can be. realistic.
It's insane. I mean, they put these things on, and you could look like it's like some stuff out of the movies that you would see where the spy person looks like someone else, but it's real. I mean, you put these silicone masks on, and I mean, everything looks real, and you could totally look like almost anybody.
Sure.
And it's really wild. But so Ghislaine, she actually, her dad was Mossad. Epstein was working for the CIA and Mossad for Israel and the deep state of Israel and the deep state of the United States. And then he just magically, we can't see the footage, and supposedly we're just supposed to believe everything we were told. When Obama went and got Osama bin Laden, they just threw the body in the water because they didn't want any repercussions. They didn't want to hurt any Muslims' feelings, so they just threw bin Laden in the ocean. So we have no evidence. We're just supposed to believe everything that they tell us.
That's right.
Yeah, do you remember that? It was like he came out like a superhero, like, we got him. I gave the order. And then he gets to play the hero. But then look at Gaddafi. They let Gaddafi, they showed it all over the place, him getting beaten and killed live on TV. They didn't care about that. They wanted us to see that, but apparently when Osama, we're just supposed to believe everything we get spoon-fed, apparently.
Evidently, and speaking of Muslims and that type of thing, I've got a friend, Maria. She immigrated over here from Spain. She has a lot of family over in Spain, and I talk to her quite often. And she said that the influx of immigrants, Muslim immigrants, have ruined Europe, Spain in particular, Portugal in particular, that they just move them into houses and put multiple military-age single adults in these houses, give them subsistence, and they don't have anything to do, so they're roaming the streets in gangs, and they've gotten to where they're beating up old people for entertainment. Well, the population from Spain has gotten wise. They've now gotten all pets of pot-bellied pigs, and when they go out, they take their pig with them. Muslims don't like pigs.
Oh, gotcha.
They go to the beach, they take their pig with them. They go anywhere.
Yeah, the destruction of culture has been happening, all over the place.
You talk to some people from Europe, and they say, oh, that's not happening. And it compares a lot to the United States here. Say Chicago. A friend of mine had some kind of a shirt-tail relative come out here for a family reunion from Chicago. She was a lawyer in Chicago. And he said, well, what about all the crime in Chicago? Doesn't that bother you? And she says, oh, that's over there. So, I'm assuming they've got their ghetto where all these problems are happening, but the affluent people, the government workers, the lawyers, those kind of people, they never see it because they're living in gated communities or a part of the town that's protected.
Yeah, same thing like you go to San Francisco. You could go to some really nice neighborhoods. You're not going to see any homeless people on the streets of these, $6 million houses and where all the rich people and politicians live. You're going to see them, in other places where all the peasants are.
City of Reading signed a contract with those affluent places to take their homeless for them.
Yeah. Are they making money off that?
I don't know. They never seem to be making enough.
I know, right?
There's, I believe it's 12, 13 people, and this is 224. It was 2023 that were costing the taxpayers over $400,000 a year, City of Reading, management.
Okay.
And that's a big chunk of money for your gross income. As well as I do as a private employer, when you pay somebody $100, it's going to cost you $140 or $150. It'll cost you $40 or $50 more because of insurance, Social Security taxes you have to match, that kind of stuff. So that's where that high price comes from. I mean, some of their CalPERS contributions from the taxpayers is over $100,000 for their retirement.
Yeah, I believe we're almost $1 billion in debt, complete with CalPERS and everything. I mean, it's in
how much?
$1 billion in Shasta County.
Oh, yeah.
In obligations of what we're going to.
Oh, yeah. Well, the City of Reading also. So that's $2 billion. You've got close to $1 billion for the City of Reading, unfunded paid liabilities. You can find that by going to CalPERS Actuary Report. And you fish around there. The last time I was there, it was on page 19. And it actually had a chart on how much their payments were each year. And the last time I looked, a couple years ago, the city of Reading was paying $25 million for unfunded pension liabilities, as well as the county. So that's $50 million coming out of our county to pay for the retirement of government employees. And some of them get an awful lucrative retirement. You take Alan Long, he's getting almost $150,000 a year, CalPERS. He was a police policeman and a detective for 25 years, so he retired at $150,000 a year. Now he's getting not quite $75,000 a year as a county supervisor. So he is not working in the private sector his whole life. He's sucking the government's hind tit in retirement for $225,000. That's
Wow.
what we're paying.
Wow. That's incredible.
Leonard Mody's getting over $200,000 a year. Mike Warren was getting $20,000 a month the last I looked. It was 3 or 4 years ago. Barry Tippin, I'd hesitate to guess what he's getting. We've got, I think, 4 or 5 retired police chiefs that are getting buku bucks. I would say $150,000 to $200,000 a year retirement. And they're only a police chief for 5 years.
Sounds to me like we got to raise the sales tax by a nickel.
Well, yes. Well, I'm worried about how they're getting along. You know, the price of everything's going up. If you want a deal on groceries, I better not say who it is, but the store I shop at, when I get up there, I'll get my bill and I'll say, look at that. I got $15 worth of groceries for $27.41. What a deal. That's about what it is anymore.
Oh, yeah. Some stuff, the taco truck out in front of my store, I mean, a box of limes went from $50 to $100. Their meat went from $4 to $8 a pound. That's
Sure.
certain cuts of meat. I mean, it seems like it pretty much doubled, so they're stuck. Do we make smaller tacos or smaller burritos? Do we raise the price? Do we, everybody, and then people are mad because they're like, I want $1 taco. Well, if it takes $1.50 or $2 to make a taco, how do you sell it for $1? I mean,
yeah, and you know who's getting hurt the worst with this inflation on food and the prices and everything is the person that owns the restaurant or the truck or whatever. Their profit margin, I would guess, would be cut more than in half in the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, and the thing is if people don't have money, they're not going to spend money, so they're not. It's not just that they're not buying new cars; they're not going out to eat as much, and people are probably not shopping as much either. I know there's a huge influx of people growing their own food, just because that's what I do for a living, is sell gardening supplies, and I mean, there's a lot of people in the last 4 or 5 years that have. They're like, this is my first year doing a garden, and you can see them just glowing because when they're eating tomatoes or carrots or cucumbers or whatever it is they're growing, and they're potatoes, and they're eating it fresh out of the garden, they can't believe how good it is, and you save like a lot of money, and it's a little bit of effort you got to put in there, but anyways, a lot of people are getting into that, and I barely shop at the store anymore personally. I mean, I'm not making enough money to go out and eat. I eat out probably once a month or something like that. I mean, you take me and my wife and my 2 kids to go eat, and it's $120, and there's only 2 places in town I like to eat, and I'm not going to name them because that's going to make everybody else feel bad. But, anyways, I just, everyone's having to spend less because there's the cost. They're either making less money or they're making the same amount of money, and the cost of everything has gone up. There's very few who are doing well right now.
I'm going to leave you with this thought, and then I think it's probably time to go for a break. So, the same thing that's happened the last 4 or 5 years happened with Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. When Jimmy Carter was in office, the price of gas skyrocketed, inflation went skyrocketed. I remember interest on mortgages was, 14, 15, 16%.
Wow.
You could get C notes. I got some C notes from a place that was called Fireside Financial, and I believe it was paying 18%. And unemployment was high, and inflation was out of the roof, like I just said. And then Reagan came in and he changed policies, and Reagan didn't do as good a job as Donald Trump is doing making the transition, because we starved to death the first 2 years of Reagan's presidency, maybe a little bit more than that. But he won on a landslide. He won 49 of 50 states when he ran for re-election because people believed in his policies and what he was doing. And it set the tone for a wonderful economy through Bill Clinton's term. So are we ready for a break? Yeah, we're breaking.
I want to take the time to thank the sponsors that help keep our lights on and our partnership with 22 Salute Coffee. They have absolutely amazing coffee. Their bourbon is absolutely the best bourbon I've ever had. It helps keep the lights on here. If you go to Mountaintop Media and purchase, you save 10%, and the rest of the money goes towards helping first responders and veteran suicide prevention. So you're supporting a good cause, you're getting a good product, and you're helping us keep the lights on here, which we have no outside funding, no government funding, no NGO funding. So it really helps us. Jefferson State Diesel, absolutely the best place to take your diesel in. If you have a vehicle with a diesel, they're absolutely the best. Both owners are on site. They support the community. They always are supporting patriots. And there's absolutely nowhere else I would go to take my truck to get worked on and trust them to do a good job and never scam somebody. And they help us keep the lights on here. They're our number one first sponsor that really stepped up to the plate. I also want to take the time to give a shout out to Taylor Motors. They are an amazing family. If I was going to go and buy a new vehicle, absolutely, I would go nowhere else other than Taylor Motors. And they also sell used vehicles. So, and if you buy that, it's new to you. And they are actually, they're a top tier sponsor. They really stepped up to the plate. They're always going to fundraisers to support the right people. They're huge supporters of the right people in the community. And they have a lot of integrity, and the family's great. Also, Taylor Collision Center. Hopefully I don't get any accidents, or somebody just actually swiped my wife's vehicle the other day in the parking lot, and they just drove off, and it was a little ding. So I'm not necessarily, I don't know if we're going to take that in, but hopefully nobody bangs my truck up or her vehicle to where we have to take it in there. But if I did, I would absolutely take it to Taylor Collision Center. They have a lot of integrity, very good, honest people. And there's nowhere else I would take my vehicle. Thank you for watching, and support the other people in the community that support us. Hello, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing the best I can with a little bit I got left to work with.
All right.
Dwindling daily, just like my eyesight.
It's pretty early right now, so
yes.
I don't know how long you've been up, but you got a long ways to go, buddy.
Oh, boy. In fact, we've got a meeting to go to tonight. Patrick Jones, something about elections, and Tina Peters and a guy coming to town. I don't know his name, 5 o'clock at the Veterans place down in Anderson.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I thought you probably knew about that.
No, the VFW?
Yes.
I'm not online, so unless somebody texts me or calls me and tells me about it, I don't.
Oh, okay. Patrick's been advertising it. I just assumed you'd know about it.
I hide out in a cave, and unless somebody sends a message to me on horseback, I don't.
5 o'clock. The guy that
VFW or
VFW in Anderson, and he's going to tell us about Tina Peters, who was put in jail. Something to do with election
for preserving information.
Yeah,
voting preserving it.
It's the way she went about it, but we could go on and on about that. You got a clip. I'm interested in this clip.
Yeah.
Let's
so basically, we're gonna go kind of out there, but I'm not gonna tell you what reality is, but I think that we have to question what we see on TV and what we read in books, and what was history. And there's a lot of interesting things that have happened that just kind of you don't get taught in school. So we're going to start with some basic normie stuff, and then we're going to kind of get into some crazy stuff. But it's gonna all be factual based type things, and then I'm gonna ask some questions, and it's gonna be interesting to see what you think and what the audience thinks. Hopefully, we can start a conversation up about this. And I'm not saying I got it all figured out, but I have a lot more questions than I do answers. But I just want to spark conversation. But go ahead and start this clip here. You always trust the mainstream media.
That's right. They wouldn't lie to us.
So I don't know if you can see what's going on there, but they're talking about this storm, and they have a giant fan blowing right there. Play that clip one more time. One more time.
Where's the giant fan?
It's to the right. Okay, did you see the guys casually walking by? And
I did.
The one guy's laughing at him. So on the right-hand side, you can see the giant fan blowing on them that's making it look like they're in this crazy windstorm, which there's some wind in the background, but you see the guys casually walk by. They're pointing, they're like laughing at him. They're like, look at these jokesters. I mean, there's other videos of people down on their knees in a couple feet of water, and they're acting like the water's up to their neck. You know what I'm saying? And just, okay, Stonehenge. You ever heard of Stonehenge?
Oh, absolutely, I have.
Okay, what year do you think when was Stonehenge made?
Well, I would have to guess, but I would guess about 1500 BC.
1500 BC?
That's my guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's what history would tell you. Go ahead and play this video. Go ahead and...
Well, they still can't.
That's good enough. Let's people can do their own research on this, but this is before CGI. I thought Stonehenge was from thousands of years ago also, But unless, I mean, I don't think this video was made, you know, that long ago. So, what do you think about that video, Nick? Or what do you think? I mean, you can.
I think they're old. I don't believe that video.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Okay.
I think that they're trying to program our thinking, and they're discounting things that have happened and explaining them in a different way and making everything fake. You know, the winners write history, and they're changing history. I think there's been a lot of history changed, and a lot of history that's not accurate to start with, because the winners wrote it. I'm reading a book now, Out of America. It's a black guy that went to Africa in 1990 and spent 3 years there. And his take is the blacks here in the United States should be paying us for accepting their ancestors and getting them out of that mess.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you think that video is CGI or something like that?
What's
it's a fake
CGI?
Computer generated imagery. I mean, you think it's a fake video? You think it's completely fake?
I do. Oh, I do, especially with artificial intelligence.
Okay, I mean, fair enough. That's
I could be wrong.
There's ways of looking at these videos,
sure.
And my friend Mike. Well, anyways, I'll just say his name's Mike. He's been doing CGI for a really long time. He's a graphic designer for, I believe, over 35 years now. He's 50 years old, and he's been doing it for 30. So I always send him videos and I say, hey, is this real? Is this not real? And he kind of, because sometimes I think something's real when it's not. But these guys that make those kind of videos, they know, what to look for and stuff like that.
Sure.
But anyways, I'm pretty sure that's a real video. But I mean, I don't tell people what to think. All right. So have you ever heard of the catacomb? There's catacombs all over the world. Specifically, have you ever heard about the catacombs in France, which you can actually go and look at these in person, in parts of them. Now there's a lot, there's miles and miles and miles of these. So there's also catacombs in Italy. I'm just going to focus on the ones in France, which these are not CGI. These are actually, it's a real place, completely not conspiracy. I can see how someone could not believe Stonehenge being made in the 50s, but this is absolutely 100%. You can go there and you can see them. They're real bones. They estimate over 6 million bodies, and it's all part of history. I mean, they basically say that, what happened is they had abundance of dead bodies. And I believe it was the 18th century. I'm going to pull up my facts on this. But have you ever seen that before?
No, I've heard of them. There's catacombs they claim underneath the Vatican that's just filled with gold, and they're going to disperse that gold, and we're all going to get $50,000 and life's great again. But this here, no, I've never seen this. It's basically a catacombs caves that they've built, elaborate caves, and they're lined with skulls and bones of people. And, it's hard to believe. But, the world was a bloodthirsty place back in the 15, 16, 1700s. Life wasn't valued as much as it is today. And maybe they didn't want to believe in burying people. They needed all the ground to grow food. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on this, John?
I don't have it figured out, but I don't believe that. It's kind of interesting. You know what happened to the rest of them? I mean, they just strategically, okay, if you're having a problem with people getting sick because there's too many people being buried above ground, and when there's flooding, it created, sicknesses and stuff like that. I just don't know, to go in there and put these bones in there as strategically as they did. I mean, how do you have enough time on your hands to stack 6 million bodies in these, crazy formations, and just so precise? And, I mean, I don't have that kind of time on my hands. I don't know. It's just, it seems like you dig a giant pit or something and stack all the bones in there, or, I mean, maybe they were honoring these people in some crazy way. An interesting thing is a lot of these skulls, you can see holes in some of the ones that you're clicked on right there. A lot of these skulls look like they were actually damaged, and maybe like their heads were bashed in, and there's a lot of evidence for that. Well, go ahead and go to clip 1. Anybody who wants to go there.
Well, it makes me wonder who would come up with an idea like that.
Yeah, well, there's a couple gentlemen. We can get into that. There's a couple people that are given credit for that. I do have that somewhere in my notes here. I can't remember their names, but there's 2 people that were given credit for the idea and executing that operation. But like I said, I don't necessarily believe what's written in the history books. I think there's more to that story. And I'm not going to I have my own ideas of what possibly could have happened, but I'm going to sound a little bit wild if I'm not,
But we're an opinion show. We want to know your opinion.
Well, I honestly, I think that possibly there was giants, and this sounds crazy, but there's a lot of giant bones that have been found of bodies 30 feet tall and stuff like that. I mean, biblically and historically, there's a lot of talk about giants, and people
Sure, I've heard of them, absolutely.
So I think it's possible that maybe they were eating people and stuff like that. I don't know. And then I'm not saying I think that's for sure what was happening, but, were dragons real? I mean, this stuff gets talked about in old text and in the Bible. And, I don't think they were, metaphorically speaking, for instance. I do think that some of this stuff was real. In fact, look, Leslie, while we're talking about it, look up the dinosaur discovery, like the newest dinosaur discovery, and look at this skull that apparently they couldn't. The skull was perfectly preserved, but apparently they couldn't find the body. Let's see.
About the dinosaur bones and this and that is they'll find a thigh bone and they'll build a dinosaur about it and color it in and decide it has feathers instead of scales. And I'm thinking maybe some of them are.
Yeah, and they're like, this is from 370 million years ago.
Yes. Yes.
We know what it looked like. We knew what color it was. We knew what era it was from.
And we made 97% of these bones out of plaster, but they're accurate.
Yeah, you go to the Smithsonian, and then let alone there's been many giants that were found in history, and all of that stuff gets swooped up and swept under the rug. There's a lot of old imagery that is non-CGI, okay, there has been giants pretty much did exist, in my opinion. I do think they're real because there's a lot of evidence that suggests it.
Well, are we created?
I believe so in intelligent design, absolutely, but I can't be the authority on that.
Well, my thoughts are we are. And, with the dinosaurs, maybe the creator said, I made these guys too big. We need to wipe it out and start over with a new one. Maybe the same with the giants. There's just no way the earth can sustain a population of these people the way they're going to reproduce. We need to feather them down to a decent size to where the earth can support them. If we're in intelligence design, certainly they made mistakes too. They didn't just draw the one blueprint and this is it. So that might be a reason for the extinction of the dinosaurs, the extinction of the giant people. And look at some of these birds. I get a kick out of some of the shows like Star Wars. I've seen a few of them, and their characters are based on real birds sometimes. I mean, you look at those big dinosaurs that the machines that are walking, they just look like a turkey. The way a turkey walks, and people
sure.
hanging out of the gullet with the cannons and stuff like that. A lot of our jets, our fighter jets and everything, are based on birds. The way birds fly, and a feather pops up this way and they turn that way, and
the best inventions are, you look
natural.
at you look natural, absolutely, but when you come to aerodynamics and all that, absolutely. I mean, look, it's got the wings, it's got the tail.
Oh, sure.
It's, you know,
I saw a special where there was a bird flying and he'd just move his tail feathers and he'd go up and down and sideways. Funniest thing I saw one time, I was up at Sims Road sitting up there reading a book, and I saw this bird chasing a moth. And you talk about a fighter jet chasing after something that wanted to evade it. It was funny. This bird was just, he looked just like a fighter jet, only 10 times more, shucking and jiving and up and down and left and right. And he finally got it.
wow.
Yeah. He was about 30 foot up in the air and off the river, wide open sky, to where I could see it. And you look at hawks, man, I'll tell you what, hawks are just spectacular. I watched one at my house. There was a nest of baby squirrels, and they would run around in the walnut trees just above me, and a red-shouldered hawk set a nest up in the top of the sycamore tree on my property, and I watched one of them come through all the foliage and nail this one little squirrel just 10 foot from me, and it was just amazing that he could maneuver through there and nail him like that and take it up to his nest, and dinner was served.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, they if I let my chickens out of the coop too quick, there always ends up being a hawk.
Oh, sure.
It's usually a red-tailed hawk comes and just starts eating. I'm like, wait a minute, how did I go from 50 to 40 chickens? And I'm like, and then I see him sitting up in the tree, just scarfing down whenever he wants.
At night, if you're a little late, are your chickens sitting there waiting for you to open the door so they can go in and be safe?
I actually have mine cracked all the time. I never have an issue with anything getting inside the cage because I have dogs, and they're, you know, I haven't had an issue with that. But if I let them free roam, so I have I have an area where they're on lockdown till I think they're big enough. And then once they're big enough to go out on the 5 acres that's fenced, then they're kind of on their own at that point. And then they just, I leave the door cracked to the coop.
I had a friend who had ducks, and raccoons would get them. And he said at night, if he's a little late getting home, they were waiting right there at the door for him to let them in so they'd be safe. Then they learned to fly. And he said they'd take off and they'd be gone all day and they'd come back at night.
Right?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Wildlife's interesting to watch.
Oh,
Go
it's
on.
the coolest. Okay, so here's a story from 2012. Chinese-made infant flesh capsules seized in South Korea. So in China, they were drying the flesh of dead infants and turning them into powder, putting them in pills. And people are, they confiscated 17,500 of the human flesh capsules since August of that year, since this article goes back to 2012. And I mean, it's just kind of interesting how we have this history of cannibalism, and you can say this is something else, but it's not. I mean, when you're eating powdered babies, and this is just mainstream news right on AB, it's really weird. Go ahead and go to the next clip. I believe this next clip, scientists just learned our ancestors ate toddlers. So this one's pretty interesting. Roughly 850,000 years ago, someone looked at a toddler and saw dinner. That's the conclusion researchers have drawn after analyzing a child's neck bone found in Grandolina cave system in northern Spain. The bone belonging to a 2 to 5 year old Homo ancestor shows precise cut marks, signs of decapitation, and defleshing. In other words, this poor kid got butchered and eaten. This case is particularly striking, said Palmira Saladi, co-director of the excavation, in a statement, not only because of the child's age, but due to the precision of the cut marks. So anyways, they go on to say that these all these bones were processed like any other prey, basically butchered just like you'd butcher a deer or something. We'll put these links in the comments or somewhere. These bones.
I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did they find the bones of multiple infants or just one? And base all this assumption on one find?
I believe there was 10 newly unearthed skeletons, including now extinct species only from the cave.
Well, that that doesn't tell me that the whole society did that.
No, yeah,
That could
for
be
sure.
one coven of witches or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. But look at those. Look at the catacombs. With just saying, I mean, what was going? A lot of their skulls are bashed in.
Well, you
and
got a
so,
point there. You got a
yeah,
point
I'm
there.
just-
And you
I-
look at the Incas down there sacrificing
The-
people to end the drought or whatever they were.
Yeah, historically, I mean, there was people doing these sacrifices, and cannibalism has been recorded, throughout history. And who knows what was happening before what we're reading history is now. Obviously, there was something going on because there was precision cuts going on with some of this stonework that we can't even do this day with all our modern
Sure.
technology and everything. So I'm not saying I got it all figured out, but like I said, I'm just posing the question, and it's interesting.
But people, when they're starving, they're desperate. They would eat anything. I saw a picture, I think it was in Somalia when they were having a famine and everything. And this gal was trying to break into this food storage place with an armed guard right there with a gun on her, and she didn't care. She wanted to get in there and eat something. So people can really, really get desperate, in my opinion, when they're starving to death. And maybe that was... that's just a theory of why maybe that happened, and maybe it just happened for a couple of years, and it wasn't their normal procedure.
Yeah, in Holodomor in Ukraine back in 1932 to I think it was 1934. It was a couple years, and they say between 30 and 60 million people died during that era, which it's
From famine.
So a reporter came in. He was the only, I forget what agency he worked for, but it was a pretty big time reporter that reported on world things, and he was actually let in there, and he was shocked, and he told Stalin, he said, this is a famine, and Stalin said, no, it's a famine is when the mothers are eating their children.
You ever you heard of the Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn? He was in the gulags in Russia and wrote a very popular book. He talked about the Ukraine. During the First World War, Russia went in and took every grain they could find, all the food, everything to support the war. And the people there didn't have anything to eat, and the farmers resorted to eating their own children. And if you get that book, it seems like it's on page 457 or right around in there. And if you look it up on the internet, say Ukrainians eating their own children during famine, I'm sure it'll pop up.
What year, what time frame was
That was
this?
about 1920.
Oh, okay. So this is before Holodomor. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, yeah. Ukraine's got an interesting history.
Boy, that'd be pretty tough to do, eat your own kids.
Yeah. So anytime
But,
you're anytime you're complaining about whatever it is us Americans complain about, we can always
boy.
it can always be worse, as my good buddy always says. It could always be worse.
A lot worse. I read a deal that said that our poor people here in America, in fact, it was written by somebody in Latin America, our poor people in America are richer than 97% of the world's population.
Yeah.
She said, I don't know what you're complaining about. You've got TV, you've got food, you've got refrigeration, you've got electricity.
Well, that guy's got a Ferrari and I don't.
Yes.
I mean, I want a private jet. Life
Yeah.
is rough.
Yeah, and you take and look how some of the people are living in, like Muhammad Ali when he fought George Foreman down in Zaire. When he left, he said, I thank God my great-great-great-grandpappy got on that slave ship and came to America.
Well, some of the richest people in the world are the poorest people in the world because they're empty. And
That's
when
right.
people ask me, if I was asked, how rich are you? I would think, well, how much joy did I have today? How much family do I have? How many friends do I have? How many times did I laugh today? Because you can't take it with you when you die, and it's not going to do anything for your soul. So, anyways, I don't really have anything else. I could go on and on, but I know we're about out of time. And I was just bringing up a couple things to hopefully stir up some conversations.
Okay, well, let me remind you, Shasta Anon will be on Poke the Hornet's Nest Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, KCNR1460.com, 96.5 FM. It's very interesting. We're going to have them. Just like us, we run out of time. But if you wanted to go watch their clips, there's a very good clip about Dan Sloan on there. It's only about 5 minutes. In fact, maybe Leslie will play it when our show's over and let it run. If you stay tuned in, you can see it, and it's a good... Okay, here's Patrick Jones's Town Hall. It's Mark Cook. It's tonight at 5 o'clock. Handcountroadshow.org. That's where you can check it out. Handcountroadshow.org. And it's at the, I know it's at the Veterans...
VFW Hall in Anderson.
Yes, be there or be square. So I guess that's it.
All right. Thanks, Nick. I always appreciate you for putting up with me.
Well, I always appreciate you putting up with me. Most people see me come and they turn off the lights, pull the shades, and pretend they're not home.